Yeah, she said, I've never seen one that big before.
I drink and I know things. That's what I do.
Welcome to Drunk on Dragons, where we drink, well, on dragons, while discussing, you guessed it, House of the Dragon. I'm your host, Jamie G, Master of Laws, and I'm here with our Master of Coin, Jay the Money Scratch, and our cupbearer, Magnum Mills. And we're going to talk about episode 3, titled Second of His Name. What's everybody sipping on tonight while we're getting ready to get drunk on dragons?
Well, I'm Jay the Scratch here, and I've been kicking back. I actually just watched this episode, so I'm fresh into it. And I've been sipping. We're kind of working on a late night tip filming this, or a little bit of a later night. So I've got some coffee with some Baileys in it. So in my nice thermos.
Way to Irish that up. Way to Irish it
Yeah,
up
man.
there. That's as long as you don't do the Irish exit, we're all good.
Well, I figure if we get drunk on dragons, gotta fill it up.
You got to fill it up, and you have to not fall off the dragon. That's the key. You want a good mount, preferably tie yourself in while you're tying one on. I am Magnum Mills. Thank you for checking out Drunk on Dragons. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods, all the good ones. You can find our YouTube channel by going to joeblowfootballshow.com. We're on social media at Drunk on Dragons. And I, as the dude who, sometimes is responsible for the mountain ranges and whatnot, sticking with my Coors Light with the nice, very cold blue mountains. So
You're the opposite of the H2O, the fire with the cool mountains. Please note that Drunk on Dragons, yes, we are a full spoiler show. We will be discussing all episodes of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones. Some spoilers from George R.R. Martin's works could come up, but don't worry, we're not going to be solely focusing on the books. If a book spoiler that could impact the show comes up, we'll probably let you know in advance because we're cool like that. But just know, and my producer, the Major Dick, is in my ear. I have to. It's your first and your only warning. That's it. That's all you get.
this is Second of His Name, episode 3 of season 1 of House of the Dragon, originally aired Sunday, September 4th, 2022. This was directed once again by Greg Yatinis, who will also be directing the season 1 finale, also directed episode 2. Written by Gabe Fonseca and Ryan Condell. This is the first writing credit on House of the Dragon for Fonseca, while Condell has had a writing credit on every episode of season 1 so far. The short plot synopsis is: Daemon and the Sea Snake battle the Crab Feeder. The realm celebrates Aegon's second name day. Rhaenyra faces a prospect of marriage.
And before we get on our dragons and start drinking and scorching the earth, let's each give our initial thoughts on this episode, Second of His Name. Jay Scratch, where were you at with this one?
Yeah, so I think this was an episode that was like a kind of more of a character building episode. Obviously, there's a little bit of action in the end of it, but for the most part, we're trying to figure out where these characters are going, what kind of angst the king is going through, what Rhaenyra's going through in her head, becoming queen, and if she's going to stay queen, since now there's this 2-year-old silver-haired, blue-eyed, or purple-eyed baby. I think it's interesting. There was some fan service with the Lannister, callbacks there. I think it's an interesting dynamic that you're going to get with the king. And for me, I thought, at some point, I think the king's going to die. I think it's going to happen pretty quickly. So I thought it was going to happen in this episode. So I'm actually I'm interested to see where they're going in episode 4.
I thought this was a good character development too. And I just want to talk for a second about a couple of things here. The time jump, right? I mean, we kind of get that opening and then we're kind of told without being told it's 2 to 3 years in advance here. And for me, when it was happening, I was like, man, okay, it's a little choppy, but I actually think it was the right way to do it because they needed a way to kind of build up the resentment and the tension and all the things that are going on that kind of force this episode into a boil over. And the only way to do that was from time. And it would have been maybe boring to kind of stretch out 3 years of just kind of the build up. So I think it worked actually in the end. The big decision with Viserys, right? I enjoyed kind of some of his dark parts that he went to within himself as he tried to kind of think about what was the right thing to do. And I enjoyed that there was a lot of drinking in this episode. We finally got a drunk king, so that was pretty cool. But I enjoyed his own torment here and the nonstop politicking of everyone that surrounds him. And you realize I don't know that anyone that speaks to him doesn't have their own agenda that just speaks to him in blind confidence. So thought that was a cool development. Obviously, Damon and his whole journey with the crab feeder, I liked how that actually played out. I thought that was pretty cool how he finally kind of just risks everything, balls to the wall, doesn't care if he's going to die just because he didn't want his brother's help. And so it kind of was like he won, but he still won while being ridiculously stubborn. And then the commitment, right? Viserys' commitment to Rhaenyra at the end was a big moment, bro. I mean, we all know that they talk about Aegon being the king. So this was cool that he verbally committed to her with conviction that he will not supplant her and move her on as heir. So I thought that was great. But honestly, the white stag catching her in the King's Woods was just choice for me. So all in all, I thought the episode was fantastic.
Very nice. And I would like to petition the council that we now refer to him as the wee baby Aegon. I just think that's nice. It's not quite the wee baby Seamus, but I like the way the wee baby Aegon sounds. I like the episode. I think you both pointed out the way it kind of opened and closed. The one thing that did throw me a little bit is you kind of got that breakneck opening, and then we got like an old school Game of Thrones pace almost. Nothing wrong with that, but then it kicked in at the end. So it was just, it didn't quite flow maybe as well. I don't know if it would have meant checking back in on that on the B plot, kind of in the middle of it all, or just structuring a little bit different or whatever. I enjoyed it or whatever. It was just kind of a little bit jarring to go from all the action to a very, very quiet episode for the most part, and then kind of bump it way up, volume to 11 at the end. No one was really like, who are you rooting for in this episode? Kind of like everyone was kind of a dick and a little bit off-putting. I mean, maybe Allison seemed to be trying to do the right thing more or less, but almost everyone else is just kind of doing their thing. Like there was a point like, all right, fuck it, Dragon, just roast everybody. You know what I mean? Like Damon was being a badass, but he was also being as much of a petulant child as Rhaenyra was when he doesn't want to take his brother's help to the point he's like, yeah, I'll fucking kill myself before I take the help. But you do get that great visual of him walking out at the end with the crab feeder's body and everyone kind of looking at him. And I think it again, the ends justify the means for the most part here, but it was a little bit choppy, and it felt like the first time kind of that they were trying to maybe, marry what is House of the Dragon to the old school Game of Thrones stuff, and it just didn't quite match up tonally.
No, and I like like you were saying, like there was something in the B plot that was missing, like mid episode, and I feel like it was that scene where, like, maybe Valerians were like begging, for some help or something like that, or they were having a meeting where they're all like, we need to write a letter to the king and beg for his help. You know what I mean? Like that would have been a scene. We don't see that side.
Yeah, and that happens. They just don't. There's definitely a way they could have presented that to make it work, or even have the guys deliver the letter and then cut away and then come back to it or something, where you kind of wonder,
Right.
all right, what's he going to do? Is he going to accept the help or do something else?
Well, like I'm saying, I feel like it would have built Damon's character a little bit more if you'd have seen them in a meeting where Damon's like, no, I don't want to write a letter to fucking ask for help. Like I can do this on my own. And like they're like, no, let's write a letter. And then there's like a secret, like, all right, we're just going to send a letter without him knowing about it, because that's basically what happened, right? So, and like that builds that tension at the end where he beats the shit out of the messenger because he's like, dude, you guys are going to fucking mutiny. Like he knows about the mutiny almost. I thought that was like maybe a scene that's kind of missing. But like to Glow's point, like the whole pacing and that time shift, I think, is a credit to the editing and how they're kind of showing that progression pretty smoothly. Man, it was not as smooth in Game of Thrones.
Well, and that's an interesting segue here, because there was a 6-month time jump between episode 1 and episode 2, and now we get a 2-year time jump between episodes 2 and 3. Do we like how the show's handling these? I mean, it's almost the exact opposite of how we saw the early seasons of Thrones kind of operate, where, that first season, there was no time jumps, right? I mean, it was just literally like day by day. And so it's interesting that they're going almost the opposite way with this. Mills, any thoughts on these time jumps and how you feel about them?
They're serving their purpose. We kind of want to get to the fireworks factory, and this is supposed to be a story that's set over, 50, 100, 150
Yeah,
years. So you have
yeah.
to, by the nature of the story, somewhat, and they'll mess around a little bit with the time frame, aging certain characters up, making things happen in a little bit different time, something like that. I think they're doing it pretty artfully. I think the jarring one is going to be what we all know is coming, a 10-year time jump, where there's going to be some actors that change up and everything like that. I think they've basically been setting us up for that, right? It's like the old, getting someone hooked. You get a little bit, then a little more, and then a little more. So we go 6 months. Now it's like 2 to 3 years. Next episode, it looks like it's going to be maybe not the big one, but you have to figure the big one's coming, sooner than later. That's what she said.
That is exactly what she said. And you're right. I mean, I like that they're doing it kind of like in baby steps, though. It'd be one thing to kind of get 5, 6 episodes deep with no time jumps, and then bam, we just get a massive one. Like that would be too much to handle. So I like that they're doing them in stages here. And it'll be interesting to see if we keep getting them, episode after episode after episode.
I actually think they're going to slow down as the seasons go. Like, I think they'll do it the opposite way that Game of Thrones did it a little bit. And like, we'll get a couple massive jumps here in the next, like the first season and like the second season. And then it'll start peak. Like, if we go 6 seasons into this, it'll start dwindling down to like, all right, shit's happened. Like, because a lot of shit happened, like towards the end of the story, I can imagine like it all happens very rapidly within a year. It's interesting. It's an interesting way they're doing it. It's funny. It's a good question to see if it's sustainable, because I don't know that it is.
I think you're right in that basically that's how it's going to work for the most part. They're getting it over with now. Again, maybe at the very end. I think they're only planning on 3 to 4 seasons of this, but it could have a sequel series or a spin-off on its own. So then you might see them approach the last half of the final season a little bit differently or something like that. But I think you're right. They're speeding up in order to slow down.
Let's move through the various players and factions in the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, and let's start with the Hightowers, and that is Alicent and Otto. What do you guys think Alicent is thinking here? Is she just kind of a pawn being manipulated by Otto and company, or is she making her own moves as an actual power player heading down the stretch?
Oh, no, 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 no. I don't think that she's a daddy's play, but I mean, she's got 2 kids now. Like, she's a mama now. I think she's got her own. You could see when they were in the Weirwoods, and it was like, your queen commands you to leave the Weirwood trees.
You may go, Samuel. You are to stay by order of the princess. The queen commands you to leave the Godswood at once.
She's getting a little power. She's smart. She's not fucking stupid. And I think that the Hightowers like are working together anyway. Like, I don't think she's like going against her father. I don't think her, I think the plan was to have a baby and to have that baby be a boy. And if it was a boy, to supersede. That was always the plan. So I don't think she's straying from that plan at all. I think that that's pretty apparent that that's where they're going with it. And it's so apparent that the houses are starting to, switch allegiance. And we're starting to see where, the breaking point is, in the shaft.
There's always a breaking point in the shaft, so you got to be real careful when handling the shaft. Jay, Mills, does Alicent, when it comes down to her relationship with Rhaenyra, and you kind of start to feel bad for Rhaenyra because you realize she had one person in her corner here that she'd kind of go to and be herself with, and that was Alicent. And now she's lost that one person, and she lost that one person to her father, with the thought of that one person is going to make it so she gets replaced on the throne as heir. So it's kind of a sensitive. I mean, does Alicent think that she could kind of maintain some sort of friendship with Rhaenyra, or is she just dumb and just didn't think about this? She doesn't strike me as someone who is dumb. I think she's actually a deep thinker and a strategist of sorts. And so I don't know if she's just playing it cool here. What do you guys think the story is with her and her path with her friendship with Rhaenyra?
initially I thought she was being kind of naive, but then I really thought about it, like this is a girl who was basically raised at court, been around all of these kind of political machinations all the time. So I'm gonna go like full Britney Spears here, dude. I'm saying she's not that innocent. I don't know if she's like a true schemer right now, but like Jay said, I think she's starting to kind of feel her royal oats, so to speak, and get that sense of power. And again, like the idea that Viserys might not be long for this world, right? Like she's gonna have to make a decision on this, sooner or later. And she's obviously making moves, right? It's 2 years in, like they've been like what's like 2.5 years. She's already had Aegon, so that was like immediate pregnant. And then she doubled down on the Britney Spears. Whoops, I did it again. She's got another kid already. So yeah, I think it has to be somewhat conscious. And oddly enough, their relationship, if I had to pick something that reminded me of the relationship between Natalie and Sally on the season 3 of Barry, which was kind of this weird friendship where one was lower than the other, and then the roles kind of switched around without spoiling too much. And I don't know, I got some weird like kind of vibes for that, right? Like Alicent was content to do the right thing, but she wasn't going to do so totally at her own expense. And now if Rhaenyra is going to be a dick, kind of, she's going to move on.
No, absolutely. And the thing with her father, with Otto, at first I thought she was just kind of following Otto's lead here. It was all part of the grand plan, and he basically had a play. It worked out, and now his play is making him more powerful, and all that's great. But she had a little bit of a pushback here with her dad, where Otto came in and was basically like, you have to convince him to choose Aegon. And she seemed somewhat hesitant during that, didn't she? So I started kind of second guessing, like maybe she's stepping out on her own here a little bit, and maybe what she chooses to do isn't necessarily what Otto wants her to do.
She's not a full-fledged player yet, but she's like entered the game now. Like player 2 has entered the game kind of situation, I think.
I think she's hesitant to go against Rhaenyra, but there's also this like I think they're gonna play something where like she tips over the edge. There has to be something that is that tipping point where she like, okay, well now I want my son to be king, and that's the thing. And as far as Rhaenyra goes, I mean, like you think about who else could be close to her. I mean, Damon's her cousin, like that love was shown there before, so you can see like that they definitely like know each other well. Yeah, there's interesting dynamics forming for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, we got Otto too, right? He's the other side of this coin. Like we meet his we meet his older brother, who I think is Hobart, Hobart, something like that. But it really feels like this guy's the real power, right? Like Otto, all of a sudden, like even despite being the hand of the king and the grandfather of the possible heir, he definitely like seems to defer to his brother. So maybe it's not even Otto who's really like the head high tower in charge, so to speak, right?
He's the king's firstborn son.
I don't know that his grace sees it so clearly.
Then it lies with you to make him see it, Lord Hand.
Yeah, and then the end is like, yeah, Aegon's gonna be king, and you need to like step 2, motherfucker. And and he's like, yes, sir, Dean Cain, sir. He's not, pushing back at all. It is complete
If we know
subservience.
the High Towers, you know what I mean? Like there's this whole conspiracy with the Maesters and the High Towers.
Yeah, we're not gonna do the Grand Maester conspiracy
Citadel,
right now. We'll be here for a while.
I know we will, but I mean, if you think, the Maesters killed, or well, you could say that, a whole Targaryen, dynasty was killed right there before in the first episode.
Yeah, I mean, Otto, any other kind of thoughts here? I do think it's interesting that we see his brother basically treat him the same way that he treats Alicent. You know what I mean? It's almost like he's big brothering and sonning on him, and so he turns around and does the same thing to his daughter. And that seems, fairly real to life, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll just say that I'm still not convinced that Alicent believes her son should sit on the Iron Throne. I don't know that I'm fully convinced of that. I think she seems okay and believes that Rhaenyra is is destined to sit on the throne. It just feels that way to me.
So I think she did until that scene at the bonfire. I think that scene at the bonfire gave her some questions, because he was like, that whole scene is him questioning the bloodline and like his dreams and all of that. So I think there's, I don't know.
he probably pushed too far a little bit, though. Otto did, right? Because remember last episode we had Viserys being worried about marrying, like a 10-year-old girl, and here he turns around and he's like, "Hey,
Who do you have in mind?
Prince Aegon.
The boy just turned 2, Otto. Yes.
Yeah,
he could not have thought that was going to end well, right? Like that was, I think, like he might have overstepped the bounds a little bit. Now Viserys is maybe like, ooh, like, you see throughout the episode, he get very, very suspicious of everyone just pitching their own ends, kind of.
Yeah, I think he stepped, and we saw a couple people step too far. Jason Lannister being one of them, and I think Otto for sure. I mean, that 100%. I mean, the dude barely has a minute to breathe, and he comes up with that crazy shit. I mean, he laughed at it. That's how absurd it was. I mean, I guess his thing was it was absurd because he was only 2, not because they're brother and sister. But hey, the show loves its incense, so it doesn't surprise me anymore, sadly.
They didn't invent the term sister wives, but they certainly use it.
Guys, what is the deal with Viserys? We talked about it a little bit before. Is he like the airline food of kings? I mean, it's food, but it's barely edible. Viserys kind of feels like he's barely a king, right? I mean, he's like holding on for dear life. He seems like he's kind of the joke. No one really has confidence in his decision making and in his kind of posture as king. I mean, he got the son that he so desperately wanted, but now he's like tortured, and he seems to grow more discontented with every passing episode, where he just can't find peace. One decision destroys someone else, and if he doesn't make that decision, it destroys someone else that he cares about. So really tough spot to be, man. It's not always, don't be fooled by the glamour. It's not always easy being king.
And it's not always sunny in Westeros, despite the fact that would be an excellent crossover. And he deals with it by just getting hammered all episode, right? Like initially you see him in this first scene, a dude tries to come up and talk to him about the thing at the steps on, and he's like, "Nah, bro, not today." Have you seen all this food? There are some feasts in this episode. I will say that. Like, that's their pregame, right? Like that was actually the pregame to the pregame. Like, did Viserys invent tailgating in Westeros? I'm just kind of curious, because he looks like he knows what he's doing when it comes to the tailgate party. I'll give him that.
And you said it. It was nice to finally see a drunk king, and just trying to, face his own demons. That's always works. And I enjoyed seeing a lively party for the namesake, man. So I mean, that was cool. Enjoyed that.
And that's it, right? They're setting up the fact that he is so indecisive, and he's going to waver throughout this episode to the point where we're not sure what he's thinking, even though he gets drunk and basically speaks his mind to anybody who will listen, to the point him and Rhaenyra are basically shouting at each other in the tent, and everyone like does the movie TV thing where they shut up and look at him. I thought that was pretty well done. It wasn't quite Barry Berkman dictating the text message in the store, but I thought that was really well done. And I kind of like the whole camp thing overall. It kind of reminded me of that first season Game of Thrones. You had the big Lannister camp, some similarities there and everything.
Yeah, there you see Hightower's kind of weight in power, where he kind of was like, "Excuse me, sir," like, and quiets him, and like it's just like a moment where everybody gets quiet. I think it even takes a little quick shot at Alicent when Otto Hightower cuts in there and like kind of interrupts them both. The camp scene is pretty illustrious, though, if you look at it. And also, like, I want to mention the carriage, like the inside of that carriage. It was crazy. It was like a whole little mausoleum that they were riding in. Like, what happened all of a sudden, like a couple hundred years later, the carriages got a lot worse, or what?
That has been a little bit of a complaint with this show, kind of the Star Wars prequels thing or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
Man, what the fuck happened in the meantime? One thing I did enjoy is that we saw throughout especially this, like you had people chanting for Aegon, already assuming he's king. The Jason Lannister comes up and basically offers marriage to help Rhaenyra getting over being disinherited. And then he just shits on him. Like, it's the best he does all episode. I think he like reverse Uno cards him. And he's like, "Wait, what do you mean? Who's been saying that? Have people been like saying traitorous things and you're not telling me?" And Jason Lannister's like, Casterly Rock is awesome, man. Like, Casterly Rock is a cool name for a 1990s alternative band. I'll give you that.
I like this part of the series, though. I haven't seen him being able to outthink people yet. I haven't seen him kind of look at the world jaded and anytime somebody slips up, like right away, he's like, and what makes you think our house would want your strength? Like, are you implying that we're not strong? Like, I love this kind of, like, I don't know if he's just got to be like a drunk asshole to kind of like have some conviction and like instill fear, but it was a much needed sight for me. I mean, we've seen this guy kind of just be like a giant pushover, so it was nice to kind of see him rein it in a little bit. And I gotta say, I think that last scene with him and his and Rhaenyra, I think that was real conviction, dude. I think he fully intends in his heart of hearts to keep that decision. Now, will that decision be his? That's the question. But I think if it is his decision, he intends to keep it. And that is an interesting play and going to probably put him on an island. So I hope he's ready to be sensing and on attack mode at all times. He's going to need to be.
That would be some proper dramatic irony, right? Once he finally decides, all right, I want to keep Rhaenyra as heir, then Alicent's going to shift her position and want Aegon to be heir. Because that's how things work. I've seen the television show before, if I had to guess. I do also want to shout out again the drinking here. Like at one point, he's like drunkenly, I came here to hunt. No, Viserys, I'm pretty sure you came there to drink. Do give him credit, though, when they go on the hunt. We should talk about him stabbing the stag. But like when they're talking about tracking him and the one guy points out like the shit, Viserys just picks that shit right up and brings it in close. And he's like, oh, yeah. So he doesn't really want to be involved with the hunt, but he is cool with just grabbing the shit up barehanded and just maybe that's how he dies, right? His hand's going to get infected from picking up the shit.
I wonder, was it with the pinky hand? Like, was it with the hand?
I'm pretty sure he's got the glove guard he's wearing on that one, but he definitely, you're drunk when you just grip up some poop. Like, you go to pick up your dog shit, like, oh, forgot the poop bag. Like, no, dude, you got to be pretty hammered.
I don't know what White Heart scat is, but I'll tell you what, you don't need to feel scat to know that it's fresh. If you really want to do that, poke a stick at it. I mean, I don't understand the love affair with hunters who feel the need to like grab.
Dude had already smelled it. Like he'd already done all the work.
It's wet.
It's like that was the point. He wanted to participate finally. The sniffing of the shit. Like, oh yeah, I'm in for this part.
Oh, and
that's it. It's the royal snipping of the shit. The royal
in the King's Woods, dude. I mean, in the King's Woods.
You got to confirm.
You got to confirm.
I wish Mel Brooks get a little comeback and he does like a Game of Thrones style send up, like the Lord of the Rings, like cross like Spaceballs with Robin Hood Men in Tights, and I'm there for it.
Sign me up for that. That would be amazing, guys. Let's keep it with the Targaryens here. And are we seeing Rhaenyra kind of her mean girl phase here? And dude, it's totally understandable that she's frustrated, angry, and feeling the way she feels, but she's not a ton of fun to be around here, especially early in this episode. However, her adventures in the woods seem to have given her some clarity and some like confidence moving forward. Is she finally ready to start really playing the Game of Thrones?
Should she have killed that stag, the white, like they saw finally the White Heart in, Kristen Cole goes to kill it. She's like, no, like, should she have killed that? You wonder, like, would that have changed things? Like, people were pretty impressed when she rolled back into camp covered in blood, dragging a boar. But if she was the one who had gotten that White Heart, that might have, I don't know, if maybe pushed people to her side, but I think it would have given her a better claim. So you wonder if this is like just her weakness of being kind, or maybe she doesn't quite understand what the implications of that were, or I don't know, but the show definitely wanted to say something with the way they had, Viserys have to murder the stag that everyone held from him. And then you see Rhaenyra fight off and kill a boar herself and then opt not to kill the symbol that could have helped her. So I'm not quite sure the exact message they were going for, but they're saying something.
Well, and I think one thing that is implied here is that there was a disappointment, but also a sense of relief in Viserys when he saw that the stag was brown and not white. That again, it feeds into his torment of trying to decide, do I choose Aegon or do I keep it with Rhaenyra? And I think, he's somebody who he's talked about his visions and somebody who kind of believes in the mythology of it all and the kind of supernatural of it all. He doesn't necessarily like having a white hair show up on the namesake day. And that's the hunt that would force him. He would have no choice but to lean towards Aegon. The fact that it wasn't, I think, creates some doubt and maybe also a little relief for him that he now made the right decision. And I think that's why he struggled to kill that thing. And on the other side of the coin, with Rhaenyra being able to see that, I think that gave her, for the first time, a sense of, I am supposed to take the Iron Throne. I am supposed to be the first female to lead the realm. This is my destiny type shit. And I don't think she wanted to kill it, because I think she valued that it showed her that's how I took it.
Right. So there's also like a value of like the show trying to show the deception in the Targaryens' dreams. And like there you go. Like the White Stag showing up at in front of Rhaenyra is like proof that she should be the queen, right? But she doesn't wind up killing the stag, which would have cemented her in that role. Instead, she lets it go. So she is almost like giving away the crown in this sense, where she could have cemented it right there. So there's a sense where you say, yeah, she's accepted that role and she might have, but when it like internally she might have, but the external perception of not bringing home that white stag is going to probably be a it's going to be very different.
You wish people knew, right? I mean, you wish people knew that she saw it.
Exactly,
yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And so like that's like where it also feeds into the dream, where it's like, well, is that the reason why the sun becomes a thing, like a thing, because they actually did kill a stag for his name day? Like the show is definitely building tension in ways, and especially I think the Targaryen dream, they're really pushing that, like the whole prophecy thing. And I think that's a cool thing, because it was at one point very big in Game of Thrones, the show. Like I think the prophecy and like the red mistresses and like all of those, kind of things. So
yeah, we'll loop back around to that, but it looks like the show is actually going to, like House of the Dragon is going to pick up and engage with some of those theories. So stay tuned for kind of the predictions theory corner at the end. We'll talk about that a little bit. Don't want to spoil it here. And you are right, man. Rhaenyra was on her mean girl shit. Like starting out, we talked about that scene at the Godwood, and like you could tell, like the singer keeps playing the same song over, and he's like, dude, I can play other things. And she's like, no, play it again. Like that's like a drunk person in the back of an Uber, right? You're an Uber driver, and they're like, just play the song again. That's all I was
Play
thinking. That whole
Freebird.
time was like the Uber passenger from hell.
the pianist from Westworld in season 3 kind of vibes.
Yeah, I got to see your fucking fingers bleed, right? Or that was
Yeah.
I think that
But
was
yo,
season 4.
did she let out some pent out from frustration when she stabbed the shit out of the boar? At first I thought there was some heavy BE. We had a banging energy situation when she decided to go for, take the air in the King's Woods with Sir Christian Cole. I felt the BE energy hard, okay? But she ended up, instead of like banging, she ended up stabbing the shit out of this boar. And I don't know, man. I'm not like a fan of like watching like animals die and stuff, but this was a kind of a cool scene.
And also digital blood. I think that was pretty obviously digital blood, so I didn't feel as bad. But yeah, you're not right.
I was a little pissed. They could have used like real blood.
Yeah, he could have done some squibs up or
like
something.
some practical,
especially when she's
like,
caked in it later, anyways. Although I did
Yeah.
like the blonde hair with the blood streaking through. I feel like that's about to be the new hairstyle around the court after she brought back that dead boar. And you are right. Shout out the banging energy. Like they have a couple good exchanges. Like when Rhaenyra's like,
Was I named heir to the Iron Throne, so that I might only further raise the standing of a Lord of Castle Rock?
Do you want me to kill him?
she gives him the fuck me eyes, because not only is she going to raise the standing of a Lord of Casterly Rock, she's raising his standing a little bit, if you know what I mean. Like, she wants to take in more than the Kings would. She wants to take in like the Knights would.
Wow.
Or maybe the Kingsguard would.
Yeah.
I don't know, but she wants to take in something, I think.
Well, he's taking an oath that he can't wife anybody or wed anybody
until
right?
the king can. I mean, the king or queen can, though. They're the only one who can. Like, it's like the right to pardon yourself, basically.
Jon Snow took an oath before he stumbled into that cave. Hey, and then he got into that cave and he could not.
It was a lot more progressive 170 years later.
That's true.
I mean, he did it even like, when she's asking him about, like, they even have the conversation, right? Like about your relationship history and everything. And he's like, oh, but my station was never high enough for a formal betrothal. Dude, if I had a nickel for every time I'd heard that in my life, I would have my own fucking money bin.
He'd be like Scrooge McBucks, dude, jumping in.
Well, there's one more here though, because the sexual tension is so high. They have one more exchange where he's like, "Many in the realm would gladly trade positions with you, princess," and then she's like, "Only because none of them has ever held my position." Like they're talking about banging, right? Like this is
Right? Yeah, that's an
like this is
innuendo.
like they're doing the wheelbarrow and they got the like they're talking about banging, right? Like that's just I'm
Yeah.
listening to that whole thing and it's like he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll show you my position." Like, okay, we get it, girl. You're a little bit of a horny teenager. We get it.
Somewhere in all those scrolls she reads must be the realm's form of Kuma Sutra or something, and so she's learning all the positions. Needless to say, there was heavy BE in this episode. We enjoyed it, and but instead of banging, we got a wicked kill scene, which was pretty cool. How did you guys feel about the introduction of Jason Lannister here and kind of she shit on him a little bit here, right? Like he's not up to snuff. She's not energy. She's not into that at all. There was zero BE when it came to her and Jason Lannister.
Yeah, she pretty much won. Like when she first sees him and he's like, "I am Lord Jason Lannister." And she's like, "Yeah, I pretty much figured that out from all the fucking lions." And even Viserys, like he does not land shots. Viserys he's not even a counterpuncher. He's like does the Homer Simpson when he's got to fight like the Dedrick Tatum dude. And it's like, no, just wait till he tires himself out. That's how Viserys operates. But here, when they're talking about Jason in the marriage match, Rhaenyra's like, he's arrogant and self-serious. And Viserys says, "I thought you might have that in common." Like he got a shot in, dude. Like that's how Viserys got a shot in. Drunk as fuck, Viserys landed like a real body blow though. So shout
Yeah,
out
you got to
Viserys.
shout
And
out.
Rhaenyra was all fucked up. Like Viserys shouldn't be getting shots in on her.
You got to shout out the writers. You got to give it up to the writers too. I mean, like you saying with the double entendre kind of scene with the positions, like he did a bunch of that too with like the pride. Even his pride has pride, which is like a shout out, like
Yeah.
a lion. A couple lions together is a pride. So it's like even his group of Lannisters are prideful people, which was really fucking smart. I thought that was really good. And yeah, I mean, it's really funny to see how like the Lannisters are like. I didn't put together that one of the Lannisters was on the council. I didn't for some reason I didn't catch that. So to see that
His
they're
twin even.
twins too, yeah, like
It's an
that's like
Lannister twin who's a fucking
yeah,
dick. It must
isn't
be the
that some
genetics, right?
weird shit?
Jay, as much as we love a pride of lion, I gotta say, a group of crows is called a murder of crows, and that's pretty murder. The episode itself, guys, is bookend with scenes of Daemon and Corlys attempting to defeat the Triarchy and the crab feeder in the Stepstones. Things are looking incredibly bleak when Daemon receives word that Viserys is indeed going to help and send some ships. This sends him on a completely bizarre, berserk, rage-filled suicide mission where he somehow, some way succeeds and personally kills the crab feeder in a brutal, gory fashion. Wish we could have saw the kill scene. Save that for just a minute. When we see Daemon walk out of that cave, though, dragging the crab feeder's upper torso, it feels like the introduction to the true big bad evil enemy of this series, right? We kind of toyed with it last episode. We're like, it feels like Daemon's got to kind of be set up for that. This kind of rang the bell, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean the showrunners even referred to this kind of as like this is what turns him into the guy we're going to see for at least the rest of the season, if not the rest of the run of the show. And we heard that in the first episode, right? When there was the tournament and there was the talk of these were summer nights. They weren't really battle tested or anything like that. And now he has literally been tested by battle, by fire. I think it's a little bit sketchy that they did this for like 2 years, like what, the same thing over and over again. I don't know if that quite holds. I think they just needed to show that he was, down for a long time. And I was kind of surprised when he got that letter. I didn't pick up right away that it was, that help was being sent. I wasn't sure what it was. And then he just kind of like, shoots the messenger. I'm like, damn, dude, don't shoot the messenger. But I thought the whole scene itself worked really well. And I like the very bit because we got the piece of the fight at the beginning of the episode. And you see the one dude who's like captured. He's like, oh, Damon's here. I'm going to be saved. And then he lands on fucking Craxus's dragon and just smushes him like fucking termite style.
Yeah.
Shout out the boys.
Yeah.
Like that was probably maybe the funniest bit in the episode other than Viserys landing his shotgun. And not a lot of humor here. So I did enjoy the ironic humor there.
And Wally's kind of like, he's kind of everything
He thinks
that
he's
he
saved,
said.
and he gets squashed by his savior.
Well, and he's like, burn all these cunts. I mean, he's hilarious as he's trying to like get his salvation there, and then he just completely destroyed. So yeah, I thought that was a funny moment tied into just some gore. And can we talk about just like they have really stepped up like some brutal type gore. I enjoyed the kind of aerial scenes from above with this one, where they would kind of show the men coming from all different angles. Heading into this episode, I thought that the crab feeder itself had like this like presence about him. This episode, he kind of reminded me, he was like almost like scary in a sense of like, oh God, something's like wrong with him, with this little like twitches, like just like nodding to like let his army know what to do. He kind of just, he didn't strike like fear in the heart of anyone. Like I guess they kind of set him up, last episode or two with him like hammering the spikes into people. He's got this killer hammer. I thought he was going to be like a loose cannon, kind of like he was more kind of reserved and scared more than anything. And so I liked his appearance and how they kind of shot him and stuff. I wish he had a little more pizzazz.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there. I think it was cool. I think we got to see he's supposed to have grayscale. So he's like this bastard prince that's got grayscale, and he's like all fucked up. I actually like the character look. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I differ with you on that. I think, yeah, he wasn't as scary as like we were presented originally, but I think the creepy factor is what I was getting at. And also, I like that they were like very much like crabs, like they operated like crabs, like they would scatter into the cave and hide, and they would come out when like and scavenge basically. So they see Damon's like by himself, white flag, and they all kind of slowly climb out into the sand, kind of like crabs do. So I thought that was a really interesting dynamic, and I think they played it really well. That cinematic, like let's just talk about the cinematography for just a moment and just say that they have done a fucking phenomenal job in these past 3 episodes to bring you back into the world, to kind of make you feel like you are in this fucking Game of Thrones. Like Game of Thrones is there. This universe exists. This game, like George R.R. Martin saying he wants this Game of Thrones multiverse or universe. It's like that. I can feel it. I'm there. I'm lost. There's a huge difference between this and the Lord of the Rings Amazon thing, which is just a whole nother story that we don't need to talk about. But I will say I am thoroughly like the production quality of this versus that is outstanding, and it just feels like you're back in that world. So shout out to everybody in production design, shout out to everybody editing, like just and also let's talk about the dragons. Let's fucking shout out the fucking, like, we just got a new hit on a dragon, dude. Fucking call it the what's his name? Valyrian. Yes, Sea Smoke is the name of the dragon.
Yes.
Fuck yeah, dude. That's a cool ass name. The white one. So we got a sneak peek at that one. We'll probably see a few more as the season progresses. So they're not holding back.
And to your point, Jay, we might be somewhat kind of conditioned because you remember the first time we saw dragons flying and breathing fire in like a kind of like a battle scene in Game of Thrones. Everyone was like, holy shit. Maybe we kind of got a little bit conditioned to it, but like this was pretty awesome, dude. Even like before the major battle scene where the dragons just kind of roaming around, just burning anything, because all of them, like you said, great point with them kind of being like crabs hiding in the crevices and the caves and stuff, and the dragon can't get them. But I thought the fight scene here, I mean, this was it a battle of the bastards? Probably not, but it was pretty freaking cool, dude. Like this was a really good, well shot, well produced battle scene, kind of one-on-one, and just kind of with Damon, and just kind of showcased how wild his fighting style is. And it's basically, I don't care if I die. Like he's a total loose cannon. I appreciate that about him. And the dragons coming in and just wrecking shit. You realize the sense of power. It's just they have a weapon no one else has. And so that it was pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, multiple dragons, and they also have some knowledge of warfare tactics and everything like that. Like you pointed out, in Game of Thrones, Daenerys like it barely scratched the surface of getting these dragons to kind of do anything, really. It seemed like she barely had control over them. And shout out everything y'all said about the production. There was about a 20-minute featurette on the making of this episode on HBO Max if you want to check it out. Pretty cool. They actually, for this scene, they did some practical stuff, some CGI, but they actually had an old school, like big matte background painting for a big part of it. Really cool stuff if you're interested in that. And shout out the sound design, not just here, but throughout the whole episode. Here, they did a fantastic job of kind of like the score dropping in and out as things were happening and when everything slows down. In the previous scenes with the killing of the boars, both of those were done really well and squeamishly, because you heard Rhaenyra even talk about what the sound of boar makes when it dies. So I thought, shout out the sound design for the whole episode. I thought very well done. And the crab feeder also eats crabs. So is he a cannibal? Does that make him a cannibal? I don't know. And the dude looks kind of like a turtle, right? Like he's got this weird long neck and like almost no chin. So it looks kind of like a turtle peeking out from under his shell. So I think, this is a dude who fully committed to the cosplay.
And this may be the most badass scene we've had so far, with Daemon kind of dragging him out, holding his hand, just dragging out. And then you kind of see it at the end. It's just, the intestines kind of out, and it's just like half his body. It would have been cool to see that death scene, but I thought this was almost more impactful, the way he just kind of like covered in blood, just drags him out, holding the hand. That may be the most badass thing we've seen in this show so far. That about covers the major players. Anything else that anyone would like to discuss from this episode before we move on?
Shout out, Rhaenyra dropped one more line, which he shit on the Lady Redwine, I believe, about like, what are you doing to help the realm? Just eating cake, which is A, cake callback, and B, with the Valerians off the board, the Redwines now, I believe, are like the dominant naval power that is still allied with the crown. So really, she shouldn't be shitting on her so much, probably. And shout out Lionel Strong, who's the dude who we see like actually give King Viserys like good advice and not just be like, oh, marry my child. He's the one dude who kind of gives him honest advice. So I could see maybe him getting up jumped or something like that. And the dude we saw with the weird foot, that's Larry Strong. They call him Clubfoot, but not to his face. I think we'll be seeing more of him in the future, so just keep an eye on that.
Guys, we've come to this part of Drunk on Dragons, and it's time we just strap up and we ask ourselves the most important question we possibly can. And that is, was there enough drinking and dragons in this episode 3, titled Second of His Name?
The king got hammered. Like, he was struggling to pour his own wine at one point. I mean, he was drinking that high gravity wine, right, as we'd like to call it, like the fortified wine, the strong wine. And I mean, then honey wine, of course, the Lannister guy's kind of a bitch, right? I mean, just is honey wine, is that a thing? Do you really put honey in wine? That just does not sound appealing to me.
It's mead, but yes.
Yeah, mead.
It's mead. Mead's a thing.
If you can't say it all, just say mead. Then.
It's pretty
You know
strong.
Yes.
It's like stronger beer.
Yeah, it's all pirate drink, like mead and grog and shit. Like, that's what I associate it with, like old timey get hammered.
I mean, at this point, even Alicent, a pregnant Alicent, was drinking. So I think there was enough drinking in the episode. As far as dragons, I do have one question. Why did Daemon's dragon not come and save him? Like, was that not in the fucking plan? Like, where was his dragon the entire time? Did he even show up in the end? I mean, but he just left. He just left. Just crazy dragon.
Yeah, this is definitely a conversation in the books about whether there is like a mental connection between the dragon and the rider and that kind of thing, where the bonds are formed and how like a dragon takes on a new rider and all that kind of thing. And there's never really been a 100% clear answer to my knowledge. It's kind of still one of those things that's left in the air. We did see that they caught up with Viserys a little bit because he's kind of in his chamber and Alicent comes in. She's like, how you doing? He's like,
How are you feeling, husband?
The gods have punished me for my indulgences.
At least the wine was good.
Too good.
I mean, that's pretty fun, right? So like, what is just your favorite expression or euphemism for being hungover? Like, oh, I tied one on last night. Like, one for me that I've heard before that I enjoyed is when, yes, oh, how you feeling? And they said, rougher than a badger's foreskin. Like that's right. Like, you've heard people say like a bag of dicks or that kind of thing. Like, what's a good euphemism for being hungover?
I feel like I've been eaten by a bear and shit down a cliff.
I like that one.
I'm just permanently mangled. I'm bet all day. I'm mangled, and I don't have anything fancy because I'm too hungover to think of anything fancy and witty to say. There's no jokes, there's no laughing, there's nothing enjoyable. I'm mangled and I'm bet all day. And I did enjoy his hangover scene. I thought that was pretty cool how they kind of worked that in and just put the explanation point on. Yeah, homie painted the town, dude. He got ham boned. It was hammer time and he was there all night long.
Well, he wasn't even like partying. Like it wasn't even like he was partying. He was like sulking. He was
It
just
wasn't a
like
fun
He was
hammer
on
wine.
his like
time.
mid-season
Like a
Tyrion
gross
binge, like
kind of
Tyrion in the
drinking
middle of these
wine.
seasons, where he's just like, "Yep, get up and brush your teeth with
Exactly.
He
wine."
was tormented. Like he's
Robert
dealing with his
Baratheon, every
torments.
time he got drunk, it was just like, yeah, party, drink. But like this
Oh,
was
dude,
just
Robert
like a
Baratheon is
gross. It felt
yeah.
oily.
You
It
get
felt
the
like
idea
an
people would
oil.
want to party with Robert Baratheon. No one wants to
Yeah.
party with Viserys, right? Like he's
Exactly.
stuck drinking by
Yeah.
himself because everyone has like one drink and they're like, I'm gonna take this bottle to go. Thanks, King.
Yeah, he felt very alone.
It was all about partying and sleeping with women and having a great time. He was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. He was basically like the rock star of the realm. And now with Viserys, it's like he drank because he's depressed and tormented in his own world and decision making of what he's got to face here. And so it was depressing to kind of watch him drink. It wasn't really fun. That's my only complaint with the drinking in this one. We even had a party, a big one. The name day for Aegon, the second birthday party, and it still was a little dark with the drinking. So there hasn't been a lot of fun drinking, but at least we got some drinking. I'm satisfied with the dragons in this one because I don't want them to overdo it. I don't want the show to be like use it so much that it's not special anymore and people start to not appreciate what it takes to actually show that. So I'm more of a fan of them using it in small doses, but giving us enough to keep us engaged and intrigued and like wanting to know and maybe building some storylines about it. And that's why last week, the week episode 2, I really enjoyed them mentioning kind of the folklore around like the largest dragon ever and it's out there roaming the world and who knows, like that was pretty cool. So I like that type of stuff to kind of keep incorporating the dragons.
Right, and they're building that world too, because like they're like the dragons, the whole mythos behind the dragons is like the older they get, like they keep growing as they get older. So this dragon that's out there is the oldest dragon. So technically it's the largest dragon out there. And we saw earlier Balerion the Dread, which Viserys had ridden at one point. So it's not like the dragon just stays with one rider. I guess the dragons live long enough to have multiple riders. So that's an interesting dynamic that we may see later on in the series.
Good mix here. I'd say more happy drinking, please, but like the general overall idea, there's some partying going on and that brings people together. Dragons were fun. We saw them. Good stuff. And I think they're also kind of easing us in, to get to that point. You can't start out with like dragon on dragon action, right? You got to, kind of loosen it up first a little bit and then gradually work your way up.
Yeah, baby steps. You got to crawl before you walk. And guys, I think we're at the point of Drunk on Dragons where we should fill up the trophy room. And we're going to hand out some awards for this episode titled Second of His Name, starting with that hot D, that hot dialogue. Which is our favorite quote or piece of dialogue from the episode? I'll go first here. I am going to give that line between Viserys and Jason Lannister where he starts to spin it back on him. And he questions why his house would need strength. He questions and reminds him of his duty to immediately report any form of mutiny anywhere in the realm.
If you were to name young Aegon heir, Your Grace.
And when would I be doing that?
I had assumed, as he's your firstborn son, many of us had assumed...
Many of us, you say? Have your bannermen questioned my choice of heir?
Of course not, Your Grace.
It is your sworn duty to report rebellion stirring in my kingdom.
Rebellion? There has been nothing of the sort, Your Grace.
I did not decide to name Rhaenyra my heir on a whim.
I thought that this was the first time we have actually seen Viserys take control of something and sniff out something. He has been a giant pushover to me. I really enjoyed this new kind of a series where he took control and spun it around and made it very clear, I'm the one who sits on the throne. You're not, and you better walk on eggshells in front of me because I read through your bullshit. So that was a kind of a powerful swing for me with Viserys.
Yeah, like he doesn't get to swing the sword very often, so it's nice when you get to see him land the blow. I was tempted to go with the line Jay referenced before when they're talking about, Lord Jason again, and he meant, it's like that man's pride has pride. But I'm going to go with a different Viserys line because I think this is the one that really sums up who he is best, and that's when Alicent asks him,
What do you believe, Viserys?
That I am forever doomed to anger one person in the pleasing of another.
I mean, because that's just kind of life, right? It's very hard. Like a lot of things are unfortunately binary decisions where something, that'll help somebody comes at the expense of another. And I think that's where he feels, right? There's no decision he can make that can please everybody. So he's stuck having to make a decision that is going to help somebody while actively harming another. And that's just not how dude wants to roll, right? He wants to be the, don't worry, be happy now king, basically.
Well, and that's a good segue because that brings us to the hot fire of the week. We're spitting hot fire. This is sponsored by Dylon. This is our favorite moment or scene from this episode titled Second of His Name. Mills, give us your favorite.
I mean, we've already kind of talked about most of the ones I would go with. Definitely, we've very well covered Viserys, like turning shit around and Jason Lannister. So I'm going to go with when Rhaenyra comes walking back into camp, covered in blood, and they're dragging the boar, and everyone's kind of looking like, Like, it's like that scene in, like, Major League where the construction guys are like, hey, these guys might not be so fucking bad. Like, I think it's the first time some of these guys kind of looked at her and were like, all right. Like, I can at least see it maybe a little bit. So I thought that was pretty impactful, especially when you couple it with the decision she made to stick with the boar and not kill the White Hart, which would have brought a, even more visceral reaction.
Yeah, it's so hard to not go with that final scene as, Daemon is walking out of the cave, holding the hand, dragging the corpse of the crab feeder, just clearly just did some crazy shit. I mean, this was like borderline like Mel Gibson Braveheart, bro. Like he just ran out there and just like could not be stopped. He's mowed down half an army by himself. It was wild. And then he goes in and he does the deed in gruesome fashion. That was an epic moment. But I'm not going to go there. I am going to go with the scene where Rhaenyra kills the wild boar. I enjoyed this scene especially because it's a little bit of a callback in that if you remember what did in Robert Baratheon, it was on a hunt. He got attacked by a wild boar, drunk, and bled out, and that's ultimately he got the infection and died shortly thereafter. I enjoyed this because we saw this boar just straight up hit Kristen Cole and just in the air. It looks like she's in trouble. He gets the hog one time, and then she just unloads, bro. I think I counted like 9 stabs, but I think it's actually more than that. I just after 6 or 7, I was just like math. And I just rounded it up to math. But she stabs the shit out of this thing. But in doing so, I like to think that meant something. I like to think that meant her taking control, her kind of assuming her spot, her getting some self-confidence in her world. And then, this was a pretty decent episode for her in the sense that, she gets that moment, she sees the White Hart, and then she gets the conviction from her father. So I'm going to go with that scene with the stabbing of the boar.
I'm just thinking of Wayne's World. Was it Garth where he's like, when he's stabbing?
What's the over under, Mills? Over under on 12 stabs. How many do you think? You taking the over or the under?
I'm going
under 12, I think.
Okay, I'll take the over. You guys will do our producer when he gets off.
I'm interested in my math. How many seconds passed? How fast would that frame rate be? Like, so I feel like 9 is the correct answer. I don't know.
Okay, well I said 8.
The scene I'm going to go with, I think that was the one of the best, and we had touched on it a little bit earlier. Was that opening scene where the guy's getting just stapled to a board, nailed to that cross, and then he's freaking just looking up, like thinking his savior's coming. And I think that's the best character development, because it really does show who Damon is. Like we as viewers are supposed to like root for him, kind of, but he's a fucking asshole when it like he does not care. Like you know what I mean? Like he is a he's like an anti-hero, right? That's like the character. And so we're like, us as viewers are like, should we be rooting for this guy who just landed on one of his own people? Like no, like it was no issue at all. It didn't even like acknowledge that it wasn't even a thing. Like he just stepped on an ant. You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of like, so what are these, and it's even like the soldier, like what are they fighting for? Are they fighting for this guy that doesn't give a shit for them? So it's like that mutiny kind of setting in, like that all that character building, I thought was right from the start, or from the start of the episode. So again, shout out to the writers, because they're building this world and they're really doing a good job building characters and developing characters.
This is the House of the Dragon, but everyone is definitely still playing the Game of Thrones. It's time to pick our player of the week, our episode MVP for this episode, titled Second of His Name. I'm up first here, and man, I'm giving it to Rhaenyra. And I kind of mentioned it before, right? Like she had a big episode. Like it starts off with this episode. I like her curve here, okay? Because she's in a really dark place when this thing starts. Basically, her whole purpose of living has just been taken away, and now she's just going to be pimped out to whatever helps the political cause. And that's a shitty feeling as a person. Like I couldn't even imagine that, right? But she ends this thing with having that moment in the woods where she kills that boar and really lets something out, man. Sees the white hair. She's not stupid. She is a child of history. She's constantly reading all the books. She knows what that fucking means, the fact that she saw it. Okay. And then she gets that conviction at the end from her father, where you finally kind of see him make amends. And he straight up told her, like, without a shadow of a doubt, I am not. And he admitted he doubted himself. He wavered, but he is not removing her as heir. That puts her in a different type of hemisphere, but it also is like, in a weird way, I think she's ready for that backlash and the hatred of the realm that's not going to accept a female leader, right? And so I got to go with her, man. I think the way she started this episode to the way she ended it, she's clearly my player of the week.
Fair enough. I mean, I like that call. I struggled a little bit with this one, but I think it's got to be Damon, right? Because like he fucked around and he found out that, the metal of himself, right? He went through the fire, through the crucible, literally fire and blood, shot by arrows multiple times. Like, when he gets up with that sword, you get the idea that he's not quite sure that, everyone's going to make it on time. Like he's ready to do the last stand thing. You do get some kind of, feelings like the Battle of Bastards a little bit, especially when he kind of ran from the arrows, and that scene where he's, facing down the insurmountable odds. Gotta give it to Damon, right? Because he was on the verge of losing it all, and he seems to be the only clear winner of the episode. Everyone else is still kind of caught up in the machinations. He actually fought a battle and won, so gotta give it up for him.
You can't really disagree with Daemon Targaryen as the clear winner of this episode. I mean, you could maybe say Otto Hightower has made the most moves progressively up, or even Alicent, in that sense, now that she's the queen regent, I guess you would call her. But yeah, Daemon winning a battle by pretty much fucking by himself, it seemed like in the beginning. I mean, obviously we had the dragon come through and help him out, but I mean, the dude fucking went in there suicide mission without anybody even really asking him to. So yeah, he's the fucking man of this episode, and I think we're gonna see that next episode with even within the trailers we saw a little bit of that. Like he's coming home, he's gonna have his own little army.
We got our chains from Slick Rick and Mr. T, not the Citadel. That officially qualifies us to give a grade to this episode titled Second of His Name. And for the record, we grade each episode of House of the Dragons on a scale of 1 to 10 dragons. Mills, you're up first here. How many dragons you giving this thing?
It's not full opposite of H2O here. I'm going to go 8.3 dragons. I liked the episode for the most part, but again, the pacing was just off a little bit, especially for an episode with a runtime over an hour. I think you could have either kind of maybe cut it up in a different way or trimmed a little bit of fat in the middle or something like that. You get the idea. It just maybe just languished just a little bit too long at times. And again, even at the end, like you pointed out, it's hard to really like you root for Damon, but you're not really rooting for a good guy. Like the episode never really gave you like an idea of what you really wanted to happen here, or someone you can maybe really root for. You could definitely empathize with the people, but who was really the hero? Like, I want them to succeed. Again, maybe kind of Allison seemed the most innocent, but again, I think she's the full Britney Spears. She's not that innocent. So 8.3 Drag-Ons. Jamie G, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to live somewhere in that same realm, pun intended. I am probably going to give this thing 8. I'm going to stay right with you, Magnum Mills. I'm going to also go 8.3 Dragons. And the reason why I'm not going slightly higher with this is because, adjusting to a large, time jump of a couple of years, kind of having some moving parts with some of the characters. We're seeing still more and more building, longer episode. We don't have a true like this is like, man, I can hang my hat on this character. I know this character is good and I love that. So all the same reasons as you. I will say though that this episode was shot so well. It looks so good. Just from a production standpoint, really impressive. Certainly deserves to be in the 8s for sure. I'm going to hang with you, man, at 8.3 Dragons. Jay?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, bars on fire of this one, dude. Fucking it's a pretty good episode. I didn't get to score last week's episode, but I'll go ahead and say that last week's episode was a 9.5 Dragons in my view. I thought that was a pretty incredible episode. It's one of my I just thought they did a really good job. This one takes a little bit of a slump only because it was more of a builder, and like we're still trying to figure out the story here, and they can't just throw action at us all the time, and they can't always throw like crazy plot twists at us all the time. So this one was a builder. As far as Melvin Small's Dragons go, I'm gonna give this one 8.3 on the Melvin Small scale.
And maybe you just skip right to the end, because this is the part where we do the very fun thing, the part we love most about Game of Thrones, and we're just going to make some predictions, craft theories, wildly speculate, all that good stuff on the next episode, rest of the season. And please note here, we have all watched the sneak peek, the next time on trailer. It's about a minute long, does give you some insights into what the next episode will be. If you don't want to be spoiled on any of that, this is your cue to check out. We will check you out again next week when we will be back to cover episode 4. But that's it, man. We're going to just, based on having just seen, that little trailer and whatever wants to come out of our heads, we're just going to speculate, see what happens. And let's start with Otto Hightower here. Like, do you think he's on shaky ground at all? Like, did he push too far, especially with being like, yeah, why doesn't Rhaenyra marry your, 2-year-old son? Like, did he overstep his bounds, and could he be replaced as a hand?
I'll jump in here. I'm going to say yes. He overplaced his he overstepped here with the boundaries, but absolutely no. I don't think there's any chance he's going to be replaced as hand anytime soon. I think this was one kind of strike where it's like, okay, maybe now I will think about this a little bit more, but I still think he's there as the hand going forward. But I think what it did was maybe he lost a little bit of sway with Viserys. I think what's going to end up happening is if Alicent starts repeating the same message and Viserys picks up on it and realizes that's Otto speaking and not Alicent, then I think we could see Otto being in real trouble.
Yeah, I think it really just depends on what happens next episode with Viserys, right? Like, I just have this feeling he's going to die. So in the world where he dies, Otto is really the strongest person in the realm. Like you said, Tywin Lannister said, if anyone that says they're king isn't really king, you know what I mean? So I feel like Otto has that very Tywin Lannister-esque feel about him, and maybe a little bit of Littlefinger. He's doing some puppetry, so I don't think he dies. I think we're gonna see him play a bigger role as the season progresses in pushing for, Aegon to be king.
Yeah, it's definitely where he's going. And you mentioned, Viserys dying. Assuming that happens kind of soon, do you think that he flip flops and names Aegon his heir before he dies? Does he die and still have Rhaenyra as his true heir, which throws the realm, all out of whack because he now does have a male heir, but he dies without changing it? What do you think? Does he change from Rhaenyra to Aegon, or does he stick with Rhaenyra before he dies? Assuming he dies.
Assuming he dies, I think he stays with I think he stays with his word, man. But I think that creates a tremendous amount of backstabbing, politicking. Maybe people know he's going to die and they try to do some shit last minute. Like I think that becomes the major pivot point, and we find out who the players are and what angle they're playing. But I think he sticks with his guns there and does right by his daughter.
Fair enough. Jay Scratch, any take on it?
Yeah, I think this is going to play out a little bit like, you guys ever see the movie Alexander with
like Colin Farrell, like the Oliver Stone joint back in the day,
when he dies.
I just remember
he
Colin
made
Farrell
a
having the worst
decision.
dye job and bad accent. Like that's what I remember from the movie. Bad dye job, bad accent. Shout out Colin Farrell, you're doing good shit now, but that was bad.
I just think it's going to be one of those things where it's like he's made a decision, like Flo said, like it probably is going to be Reyna, but like the politicking happens, and when he dies, like almost like honestly, like kind of Game of Thrones, like Robert dies, and there's this, Joffrey's the king, but also Joffrey's a fucking inbred, fucking whatever. So like, I don't want him to like follow the same formula as Game of Thrones, but I feel like they're going to kind of follow that formula.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be cruising for a conflict here, right? And speaking of Rhaenyra, like this, episode is a little bit of about, whether or not she will get married. And based on the trailer, it seems like there's that plot line is coming to a head a little bit. There's also some talk of rumors or whatever. So do you think like what's going on is she's banging Sir Kristen Cole, like the, her Kingsguard knight, and that's kind of what's igniting the everything else? And again, I think the trailer is probably trying to be a little bit, deceptive to us, but you definitely get the idea that there's going to be some movement on the Rhaenyra marriage front, especially because we take a time jump of at least 1 year.
Yeah, I think so. And, I like that we're taking these time jumps before we have to start seeing bang scenes with like, nobody wants to see kids banging. Like that's weird. Like even teenagers banging, like no one wants to see that. So I'm glad that we're kind of like jumping into like, all right, they're going to be like a legitimate adult in today's world and like modern times, not like of age and Game of Thrones times. That's still really bad. So I like that, but I do think that that's kind of going to be her play. And they almost hinted at it here, just a smidge, Mills, where she basically calls out, she being Rhaenyra, calls out her dad, Viserys, when he says, if it was about doing what was right for our family, you would have married, Lena or what, the Valerian. So, the kid, the 10-year-old or whatever, as bad as that was, that would have been what was right for the family, right? To strengthen their claim. And he kind of and he's like, yeah, you're right. That's fair. So he married Alicent because that's what he wanted to do, not because that benefited him or his house. And that almost kind of gives you the foreshadowing there that maybe she'll do the same thing. I mean, Laena Valerian just makes way too much sense. I mean, that would be a perfect fit, like literally a perfect fit. So it makes too much sense that it can't possibly happen, could it? Who knows?
Yeah, I think that Jay, anything else to add on that before we move on? Or are you kind of in the same boat?
Well, I just find it's funny, like you were mentioning, like he made that choice, like because Laena Valerian was like, he could have made that choice for the kingdom, for the bloodline, for all of that, but he decided instead to go with the girl that was 2 years older than her because that is more feasible. Like she was still 14, so it's like a fuck dynamic, this Game of Thrones universe that we're
the
in.
actresses are both over 20, so they are playing very young here. So it doesn't like, but you got the idea, right? Because she looks like she could be 18, and the other girl looked like she was more like 8 than 10. Like that was very deliberate on the part of the show.
That was my one beef last week, though.
this point though that there's like this uncomfortable, like as a viewer you feel uncomfortable watching these sequences, and you do, like, because you not only feel for the actors but you feel for the characters, like, and their age, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's funny to think, like, you remember Arya Stark? We like grew up, like, Arya was definitely under 18, like, the, you know, beat what the girl that played her was under the age of 18 when she started that role. And then at the end, you know, we see her topless, which is like a total like mind fuck for, at least for me. I was like, oh, I didn't want to see that, you know. So it's just like one of those, like, it's like you're, you know, you grow fond of these characters despite them being 21, you know.
Yeah, shout out Maisie Williams. Like, you were just like our little sister. You were everyone's little sister, basically. You
That's
were
what I
our
was gonna say.
Arya,
Like, that's
and we
why it
held you very
weirded you
close at a
out. It
certain
was
place in
like,
our
I
heart.
don't want to
And
see
you know,
that.
you go be a sexual person and everything. I know you're old enough, but for us, is being like kind of older dudes who watch that, and it's a little sister thing. You just can't, you know.
And that was
Just,
my beef with last week's episode, with episode 2 was, dude, out of the entire realm, we've got a choice of a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. Like,
and that should
seriously,
not
dude?
be a binary decision there,
Like
really.
that,
If he was
like that
going
was,
to consider all options, that did not need
yeah.
to be a binary decision.
It felt way rushed. That was my main critique last week, and so now we're kind of dealing with those consequences. But yeah, it's. I'm glad we didn't have to see any of the conception, you know.
Yep, good job, Game of Thrones. You correctly skipped the sex scenes in this case. So very
Yes,
good. Keep
thank
that
you.
up. Yeah, be judicious on that. Like, discretion is the better part of valor here. And we alluded to it earlier. Let's talk a little prophecy shit. And George R.R. Martin has famously said, like, prophecy is like a sword without a hilt. It's just basically a blade, and the harder you grasp it, the more it cuts yourself. It makes it harder to grasp onto. But here in the next time on, we see it. It looks like they're like reading something off that dagger, which ultimately kills the Night King, the cat's paw dagger. It was basically the prince that was promised prophecy, which is a huge part of the books. Again, it was a bigger part of the early show. They kind of went away from it, but in the books, you're still really trying to guess who the actual prince that was promised was, and they've made it the criteria vague enough so multiple people could be it. I think it's interesting that they're going back to that here. Do y'all have any thoughts, and do you like the fact that, you know, House of the Dragon might try to kind of retroactively close this little plot hole for Game of Thrones?
Well, yeah, and I think that's what it's trying to do, is like retcon it a little bit and like make the cat's paw more important, because it's like, I don't think the cat's paw really plays that much of a role in this Song of Ice and Fire series. Like, I know that it's used by like the beggar to like try to kill Bran originally, but I don't think that it's like this, like, it might be a Valyrian steel and it is kind of important, but it's not. I don't think it's going to kill the Night's
It
King.
was originally jumped in with a bunch of other weapons. It wasn't held
Right.
separately as a thing of, it was Valyrian steel, but it was not particularly
Right.
special.
But at this point in the books, Jon Snow is still dead. Mance Raiders, we assume, is dead. I mean, like, we're still wondering where, like, the what's happening with the Boltons. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
this,
Mance
there's
Rayder's still alive in the books. He's
I feel,
disguised
yeah,
as the
Stannis
singer. Yeah.
Baratheon is still alive. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, that's a whole separate thing. But yeah, I mean, they are retconning the cat's paw to like be like, to give you this universe to kind of, it's a fan service thing. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like it because I didn't like the fact that Arya killed the Night's King, because that ruins it for you in the sense that, like, unless they somehow are saying that the prophecy hasn't been fulfilled and that the night is still coming, and then they do somehow do like a prequel or a sequel to Game of Thrones, like like that Jon Snow sequel or something like that. Like, unless they somehow prove that like Arya killing the Night's King isn't the prediction, that's like the end of the world is still coming, I won't feel satisfied, because I don't think that Arya should have killed the Night King, and that's not has nothing to do with Arya not being the most badass fucking character on the show. That has to do with it just didn't that wasn't where the plot was taking this.
And that just goes to show you the kind of baggage that this show has to deal with. So it makes it kind of more impressive how well they've done so far, even if we're not giving every episode a 10 or whatever. And as we see in the sneak peek for the next time on, Daemon, like, he shows up at court and says he's been crowned Prince of the Narrow Sea. Do you think Viserys is going to challenge him, or is he going to do his Viserys thing and ultimately kind of just let him have it, which helps to create more of the fracture, which could lead to the Targaryen Civil War. I think he's going to pussy out personally. I mean, it's Viserys, right? He's never shown that much decision so far. Why would he now? But this could be when, Rhaenyra or Alicent chose to kind of make their move, maybe, right? When people are kind of starting to really question Viserys, like, dude, like, you got to make a call here. He's crowned himself king. Like, you can't do that. Like, it's even a smaller part of the books, but that's like the Iron Rebellion, the Iron Island Rebellion, which is what led to Theon Greyjoy being like Ned Stark's hostage / ward, basically. Like, usually the kings don't fuck around with that shit. Like, you don't get to crown yourself shit. You do, fuck around, see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this guy waffles more than Brett Favre. He waffles more than Brett Favre.
A lot of it, and he hasn't shown the stones yet. We'll see if he turned a corner there in this last episode, but my money is on probably not.
And I do want to point out one thing. I did shout out on an earlier episode how I wanted to see Top Gun with dragons. And I'll be damned if in like the final shot of this teaser, we don't get fucking a dragon, which I'm pretty sure is Caraxes Damon's dragon, fucking buzzing the tower like he just does a flyby on a Targaryen ship. Like, what do we think is up with that? Like, is that the first signal of, here comes kind of the real like interfamily conflict?
That's certainly what it looks like. My thought is maybe it's something else because, it's almost too obvious. So I'm going to automatically be like, okay, that's so obvious that it's got to be something else. So I'm going to go along the lines of like, he's out there trying to offer his protection, and maybe he's manipulating his role in protecting. Maybe there's a legitimate threat that he's trying to deal with, but I'm going to go with something where it's not as cut and dry as that.
Classic Game of Thrones trailer trickery, basically. Some trailer trickery.
Yeah,
I could buy that for $1. Jay, any thoughts on the kind of the little bit last shot of the teaser there with the the Targaryen ship and the dragon?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely have some trickery going on. I don't know that, like, I honestly, I don't know where they're going right now. Like how quickly they're going to time jump is, I don't want to say concerning to me, but I just don't know how quickly that's going to happen. So I just question like everything. I think the Civil War is coming, but is it going to come, mid-season? I don't know.
I don't know that it's going to come till maybe the end of this season. Like that's the end cliffhanger. Maybe like it would be, if it comes mid-season, then maybe this really isn't meant to be longer than a season or two. I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they do it.
I can give you a couple of semi-firm answers there, and the expectation I believe is 3 to 4 seasons roughly of this length. And that originally when this season was conceived, it was going to open with the older versions of the character, and they were going to do that for like an episode or episode and a half, something like that. And then they would start telling like basically this story, and then they would flash back to the younger characters. And then towards the end of the season, we would cut back to the older versions, and they elected to go this way, leading off with the story and doing the prologue the way they did it. So that I like the way they chose to do it. I think it worked better this way than trying to do the kind of like abrupt cutback, but that's definitely it might feel a little bit awkward maybe when we get that big time jump because of that kind of editing choice, basically.
And that might be the mid-season jump that we get, where like somewhere mid, like that episode,
we're in the range
5,
4 to 6 seems like
there's like a, episode 5, you get that like cliffhanger that kind of leaves you like, oh shit, what's going to happen? And then episode 6 opens and you have the actor swap with the later editions, and like now she's on like the Civil War has started between the Targaryens.
Yeah, without spoiling anything, Better Call Saul kind of did a version of a way to set up kind of a time jump like that or whatever, which worked pretty well. So if you like Better Call Saul, check out Saul Over Soon. It's over, but it was a good time if you're still catching up.
Fantastic time. Highly recommend it. And look, guys, if you're out there and you want to listen to people talk about House of the Dragon, you've got literally hundreds of options. So we definitely appreciate you checking out our show, Drunk on Dragons. We love talking about all things Thrones and discussing it with people from all over the realm. Don't go anywhere. We will be here all season long. We're going to break down every single episode of House of the Dragon with drinks. and dragons. Thanks again for checking us out. Please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps us out, helps other people find our show so they can have drinks with us and talk about dragons too. And find the rest of our content, which is also pretty rad. Mills, tell these people where they can find all of our totally awesome and completely free content.
Now I feel bad I didn't do the thing where you like download the app and like hatch your own dragon egg or something like that. I am just not good as my like 2-day experience with Pokemon Go shows. Not great with the hatching of things or whatever. Thank you for checking out Drunk on Dragons again on all the major podcast apps. Find us on social media at Drunk on Dragons. If you have any feedback you don't want to send to social media, you can send it to drunkondragonspod@gmail.com. Find our YouTube channel at joeblowfootballshow.com. Lots of stuff there. We cover various shows, comedy stuff, fantasy stuff, wagering stuff, football stuff, food stuff, just stuff, man. We got stuff. If you're Canadian, it's called Stoof, but we also have it. And thank you for checking out Drunk on Dragons. I am Magnum Mills here with Jamie G and Jay Scratch with Soup Deucer, possibly being our man on the street. And you don't have to drink to watch this, but if you're going to, might as well be on a dragon.
We'll see you soon with our coverage of episode 4 titled King of the Narrow Sea, which will drop Tuesday, September 13th.
Thanks again for checking us out. Drunk on Dragons is an unofficial show. We are not in any way affiliated with House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, HBO, or Warner Brothers Television. The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not reflect the views of any other persons or entities. You can contact us at drunkondragonspod@gmail.com. Please remember to like and subscribe. We'll check you out again next time for more drinking and, of course, more dragons.